Most SEOs start their content strategy the same way. They open Ahrefs or Semrush, they start plugging in keywords, and they think they're doing research. They're not. They're skipping the most important step, the one where you try to understand what your customers are struggling with in their own words before ever touching a keyword research tool. And the only way to do that properly is to go where your customers are asking questions. And that place is Reddit. Reddit is a goldmine of keyword insights that no other tool can surface for you. And the good news is, with AI and automation, you can tap into it at scale. Without any manual work, you can 10x your Reddit research capabilities and come out with better insights than anything you would get starting in a keyword research tool. My name is Usman Akram. I'm an organic growth strategist for B2B SaaS companies and have led growth for companies like Loom, ActiveCampaign, Adobe, and more. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 different tiers of automation that you can use to run Reddit keyword research. Tier 1 is the simplest, the beginner level, where we're going to use Claude as a web app as you normally do in your browser, along with a bunch of MCP connectors, and it works great if you want results fast without building anything. Tier 2 is going to be a repeatable, proper workflow inside a platform called Slate, which is an workflow automation platform used by SEO and content teams. This is where you can run this process in bulk on a schedule. And Tier 3 is going to be the most advanced, where we're going to use Claude Core to build a fully customized agentic system. We will let AI be the brain of the entire operation, and the whole thing runs autonomously at scale. So let's dive in. So before we get into the building mode, I want you to quickly understand this entire concept of using Reddit as a keyword research process. So when you are trying to do keyword research, and when you're working with a client, when you're doing it for an in-house company, essentially what you're trying to do is capture commercial demand in the form of keywords. When people are ready to make a purchase, you're essentially trying to rank for certain keywords and you're trying to research what those terms are. So typically that process starts with people knowing in the first layer what exactly they want to buy. So they would be looking for vendor comparisons, figuring out how they can sign up for a particular software, look for different kind of features and pricing of different products. And this is where they would be interested in booking a demo, looking for reviews, all of that stuff. So this is people being interested in buying a particular sort of a solution. Layer 2 is what people actually think. So this is what's going on in their brain when they're trying to come to a purchase decision. That entire journey is where they're asking questions like, hey, I am a one-person team. Which platform won't ruin my life? I actually read this on a real Reddit thread about influencer marketing. They're asking questions like, hey, is this influencer marketing thing even worth it? What kind of features or, let's say, integrations I need? What kind of things I need to really have in a platform in order to make it work? So all of these are questions and parameters in their brain that they're using to evaluate whether the solution that they need even qualifies. And then, of course, finally, all of that translates into the third layer, which is what exactly people search. So once they have done the research, when they exactly have an idea of what they want to buy, they will type something like influencer marketing platform, best SEO tools, influencer marketing agency, whatever they're looking for. Now, the problem with keyword research in the way that it's done these days is that most SEOs, most content marketers are going to skip this middle part. They don't even think about what really goes on in the head of their prospect when they're trying to make all of these purchase decisions. What kind of pain points would they really be struggling with when they're trying to find a solution? I'll give you an example. So if you were a potential customer of Modash, which is a company that I lead SEO and AEO for, you would be looking for an influencer marketing platform, right? We help companies manage their influencer discovery, management, end-to-end inside our platform. Now, I would be curious to understand what sort of a solution they were already using before they started evaluating a new platform. So they would be talking about the limitations of using spreadsheets as opposed to using an influencer marketing platform, because that's the solution that most of the companies use inherently, right? Before they start thinking of a dedicated solution. And that comes with problems related to scaling, not being able to manage a lot of influencers, not being able to pay them on time. Just managing the entire process becomes full of hassle. So that's a micro example of what really goes on in someone's head before they start looking for a solution, right? So all of that discussion typically lives inside communities. And of course, as you know, the biggest community in the world is Reddit right now. So this is where you can find that intent layer, right? Someone, before they make a purchase, before they're actually interested in searching for a keyword, what exactly is going on in their head? Because that's the point where you can find a lot of keyword ideas, which most of the keyword research tools will not be able to surface directly. You would either need to stumble upon them very randomly, or you would have to start with customer pain points, which in my opinion, again, Reddit is one of the best sources for. So I think most of the folks working in content marketing skip this part, which in my opinion is extremely important. So this is why we're recording this video. This is why Reddit is really, really important. So how do we use Reddit as a platform to drive keyword research? Well, you can do it by picking a couple of Reddit threads that seem really, really relevant, where the people talking about, let's say, your competitor or maybe even your own product are using specific language. And then you can use an LLM or sometimes even your own brainstorming to turn them into keyword opportunities, and then finally, of course, get to a keyword research rule. If done manually, this would be a massive hassle, because essentially what you're trying to do is use your cognitive abilities to say, hey, someone is looking to search influencers inside this Reddit thread, which means if they would be searching for the same thing later on inside Google, they would be typing something like influencer discovery platform, influencer search platform. Again, not a bad approach, but not scalable. And it, of course, requires a lot of your time, right? And just thinking about it, synthesizing this information. So you have to use automation in here to supercharge this. So how do we do it? We have 3 different approaches. As I mentioned, 3 different tiers. The bigger one is just using Claude web app, where we have Ahrefs MCP, or maybe you can use Semrush if they have one. We can also throw in Google Drive if we want all of the results directly in a Google Sheet. So all we want Claude to do in the tier 1 is that we give it a keyword and then it does SERP analysis for us. So for example, imagine it using a search operator like keyword and site reddit.com. This way it can find all of the relevant Reddit threads that are related to this particular keyword or seed keyword that you're thinking of. Then if you have an Ahrefs MCP connector, which is super easy to add inside Claude, if you're already using Claude, you know what I'm talking about. You can use it to pull all of the keywords that those Reddit threads are either directly ranking for, or you can have Claude go through those Reddit threads and then suggest keywords and compare volume using Ahrefs MCP. Finally, you have the Google Drive MCP connected, where you can export everything into a spreadsheet. Very simple, exactly done as you normally talk to Claude, where you're just giving it a keyword idea, a broad level topic, asking it to find those Reddit threads and then move on. Second tier would be mid-level, where we use a platform called Slate. You can use other ones too, right? This is where we're thinking of some of these linear workflow tools, like make.com would be another one. N10 can also be used. Ahrefs could be an amazing one. Slate, I'm thinking about it because they have this Claude MCP, where you can actually use Claude to build the workflow inside Slate. And then the benefit of using Slate, of course, would be that it becomes more scalable. You can run the process in bulk on a variety of different ideas. So again, you feed the keyword list into Slate. Once you've mapped the workflow and you're running it across a grid of multiple rows, then we look at the SERPs, do the same thing, scrape content across a variety of different threads. We can also scrape comments and upvotes. And then, of course, the Ahrefs step or Slate might also be using other kind of APIs, for example, maybe data for SEO or Semrush. But you find the keywords that those URLs are ranking for, or the keywords that an LLM can generate. And then finally, you get the list of keywords again in a spreadsheet of some sort. So the output again becomes the same thing. You find a spreadsheet with a bunch of different keyword ideas. The setup time, to be honest, is not even going to be 1 or 2 hours. This is still including all of the brainstorming and troubleshooting that you would need to do, but we're not going to do that in here. I'm just going to give you the entire thing very easily at the end, and that's a surprise. Anyways, so it requires the Slate account, of course, but what this means is you have a fixed workflow which you can run across a variety of different opportunities. You don't have to do it manually over and over. So even if in tier 1 we're using automation, it's not scalable. You cannot do it for a ton of keywords at the same time. So next tier is the most advanced. This is where we're going to use Claude Code and about 4 different APIs to build the same sort of a solution, but make it more customizable, agentic in nature, where AI is going to be making decisions for us, and extremely flexible, because you can add as many parameters as you want. You can build a scoring mechanism. You can do whatever you really want. Again, I'm not saying those things are not possible in the first 2 tiers. You can do a lot within linear workflow automation tools, but the ease of building this as a solution, especially making it agentic, becomes super easy with Claude Code, because you're just typing stuff and it's coming into existence out of thin air and actually becoming a code base, right? You're actually building a software solution. So essentially what you can do in this tier is feed hundreds of keywords to the model, have data for SEO, which is an SEO SERP API to find relevant Reddit threads, have an agent score opportunities based on relevance and maybe skip low signal threads. And then Apify, which is another API that we're going to use to scrape Reddit, is going to scrape the full threads. Ahrefs pull the keywords, and then finally Claude decides what content type, priority, or pain point match, etc. needs to be done. Again, it becomes more full, it becomes more capable when you're building inside Claude Code, because you can just throw in as many APIs as you want and make it stronger and stronger and stronger. So the capability, of course, increases from tier 1 to tier 3. But as I mentioned, if you're just getting started, you can use the very simplest version of this and just talk to Claude and build something. All right, so let's get into some action. We're going to start by building tier 1, which is very simple. We just talk to Claude and give it a bunch of prompts and have it do things for us using a bunch of MCP connectors. So I have this file where I have 3 different prompts for each of these different tiers. And this is something that I'm going to give away for free. You can access it. There's going to be a form in the description of the video where you can just submit your email and it's going to land directly in front of your screen. So you can access all of these prompts and then you can play with it. I'm also happy to share anything else that might help you. In case it does, let me know over LinkedIn. But for now, we're going to start with the first one, which is this first prompt. So all we have to do is open up Claude as you usually do, but just make sure that you have the Ahrefs connector opened up. So we're going to have Ahrefs and then we're going to add this prompt. So what we're saying is search Google for any keyword. In this case, we're going to say influencer marketing with the search operator using site reddit.com and find the top 5 ranking Reddit threads. Then for each of these competitors, which we're going to mention as Hype Auditor, Upfluence, and what's the third one? Grin, do the same. Search Google for competitor name and of course reddit.com and find the top 3 Reddit threads per competitor. Once you have all the thread URLs, use the Ahrefs MCP to pull keywords each thread is ranking for. Filter to keywords with monthly search volume above 100 that are relevant to the core topic. Then compile everything into a Google Sheet via the Google Drive MCP. 1 row per keyword with the columns for keyword, volume, difficulty, position, source, thread URL, and which competitor or seed topic it came from. So we also have to make sure that the other connector of Google Drive is connected. And you can do that very easily by clicking on this plus button, open up connectors, and then manage connectors. And if you go here, we're going to see Google Drive, right? So we already have it connected. So coming back, oh, it looks like our prompt just went away. So I'm going to paste it again. All right, sweet. So we have the prompt again. I've mentioned influencer marketing here and then Hype Auditor, Upfluence, Grin as the 3 competitors. Now we're going to send the prompt and see how it goes. It's reading the skill before any work. Good. No relevant skill. That's fine. So it's now doing the SERP analysis. As you can see, it's fetching different different Google results. And then it found the Reddit threads. Now it's finally asking us to allow accessing Ahrefs MCP. I'm going to hit allow, and you don't have to do it every single time, by the way. It just might ask for permission once or twice, but then over time it learns. And of course, you're also allowing for all future cases as well. As you can see, always allow. So what it's doing now is it has pulled the relevant Reddit threads, and now it's just using Ahrefs Site Explorer to do what we asked it to do. So it's saying, now let me use Ahrefs to find the top Reddit threads for each search. Got 10 threads, which is awesome. Now let me get the threads for each competitor. Cool. All right, so as you can see, it says, now let me fetch the keywords for all the competitor threads. All right, so finally it's at a stage where it has gathered all of the keywords data, and we're only looking for it to turn everything into a spreadsheet so we can review it directly. Now I have everything. Let me build the artifact that writes to Google Sheets using Anthropic API plus Google Sheets MCP. Cool. So you can see it working in real time, of course, which is awesome. Claude is awesome. All right, it looks like we finally have the report ready, and it's giving us a preview. Total keywords, threads, scrape, and looks like I can now go to the sheet directly and review what it looks like. It's still finishing it up. Let's wait. All right, so it looks like it has found all the data and it has processed everything, and it is giving us a preview right now. So notable findings, the keyword data pulled in total. All right, so it's asking us to click on Write to Google Sheets in order to get the data into a spreadsheet. So if we do that, I can see it's failing to fetch, which is weird. But if I click on copy, perhaps I can just paste it now. Let's see. So if I go into a spreadsheet and then open up a new one right here, and then I just paste what I copied. Oh, looks like all the data is right here, right? So looks like it had some trouble creating the spreadsheet. It usually does it fine. I have used it. Of course, my MCP is connected, and I create all of the Google Docs and files directly from Claude whenever I'm creating something using Claude. But it looks like it had some trouble. Anyways, for now, it looks like all of the data is here. All we had to do is just copy and paste manually, and we have everything that we needed. Isn't it awesome? Because we have so many Reddit threads processed in just a matter of seconds, and all we really did was talk to Claude. So this is something that we're gonna maybe call tier 1 output. All right, so this is done. Let's move on to the next one, which is tier 2, but a quick refresher on tier 1. All we've done is just ask to Claude, hey, here's a keyword, use this search operator, give it a couple of competitors, where then it extracts the top few Reddit thread URLs, finds keywords using Ahrefs MCP, filter for volume, and then finally creates ideally a new sheet for you. Of course, this still means you have to run it one keyword per session. And of course, if I had like multiple ideas and opportunities and I wanted to do a juggernaut research, I cannot do it because it still takes time, right? As you can see, I had to wait a couple of minutes. So finally, we still get, of course, the output that we needed. Now that's tier 1. Tier 2 is better than this, where we're going to use a platform called Slate to build the same exact mechanism. So we're going to move into Slate, but essentially what we're doing is, it looks like it feels more complicated in a diagram. We'll come back to it, but let's look at what the workflow is going to do and how it's going to work. All right, so I have this workflow already mapped, already constructed inside Slate, and I'm actually going to show you how you can build this, and it's actually more easier than you realize. So in the input, we have the website URL and a bunch of different competitors, and then we also configured the Google Sheet. So you mentioned the ID, but we wanted to, add the final output. And of course, you still need to authorize your spreadsheet at the start if you're using the platform the very first time. If you have used platforms like Make, N8N, Ahrefs, it's pretty much the same thing. So next up, what it's doing is it's building a competitor list based on the list that we provided. So it's just cleaning it up. Now, next up, we have a loop function where what it's doing is giving each of the competitors to this Google search node, which basically is running a Google search, as you can see, with the query being site, Reddit, and then we mentioned the name of the product, or as you can see, it says or tool or alternatives or review, etc. So we're basically saying something like, review of hype auditor, or, maybe tools or alternatives of hype auditor. Essentially, what we're trying to do is find the language that is being used around our competitors, or Modash, or maybe any other topic, right? You don't need to lead with competitors either. So the next step, it's extracting clean Reddit URLs. It's just a Python code that is doing some formatting, some cleaning up. And then there's a nested loop function, another loop within a loop, where it's going over all of those Reddit threads one by one, right? And essentially what it's doing is scraping each of the Reddit thread, getting its comments, and it's of course limited to top 15 comments if the post has more. And then in the next step, we're extracting SEO keywords. So essentially what we're doing in this case, in this workflow, is a little different. We're extracting, and not just extracting, we're actually generating initial keyword ideas using an LLM as a node, right? So essentially what we're saying is, hey, you are an expert in SEO, and I want you to look at some of these Reddit threads and then extract 5 to 10 commercial transactional SEO keywords that real users would be searching with, etc., etc. Next up, we are parsing the keywords list. Again, just a Python function. You can imagine it's just some level of formatting and stuff. Then we're deduplicating the keywords list. So we already have a unique list of keywords. We're flattening them up. And then there's another loop at the end where we're using Semrush to generate the SEO metrics for us, right? So this is where we're giving one keyword at a time, the entire list, and finding its search volume, keyword difficulty, all of that data. It's again formatting the rows because we want the rows to be structured in a specific way so that we can flow everything into a spreadsheet. And then it's building the sheet rows here in this function, and then finally writing to Google Sheet. Again, you have to configure your own spreadsheet, your own Google Drive account, but finally you get the output in the shape that you want. So we're going to run this and see how it goes. and then we're gonna quickly talk about how you can build something like this. You don't have to manually connect this. The best thing is this platform Slate, unlike many other platforms actually till this point, have a Claude MCP, which means you can literally just talk to Claude and build this entire workflow. All right, so now we're gonna test this. So all I have to do is test all, and as you can see, we have your website URL, Podash, competitor one, hype auditor, Upfluence, Grin, and then the Google Sheet ID where I want the results to be. So we're gonna click on test all, and it's gonna show how it goes. So as you can see, it has started building the initial competitor list. It's also gonna find the domains on its own. It's gonna extract the Reddit URLs, clean them up, do all of that loop. And of course, each of the loop is going to take a lot of time because it's essentially finding all of those opportunities from the SERPs and then doing the analysis for each of those, scraping the content. In the next loop, it's gathering all of the SEO data one by one for each of the keywords. So it takes a lot of time because essentially it's all we're doing is giving it one opportunity at a time, but performing the same function in bulk in total. Now, while this workflow is still working and it's going to take a bunch of minutes, let me go back and show you how you can build something like this inside Slate. And of course, if you use any other platform, roughly the process is going to be the same, but there's one main function, the Claude MCP of Slate, that I think is really, really fascinating. So if you wanted to build a similar workflow, exactly like this one, right? Reddit SEO keyword research, and you're using Slate, you can just come here. So it's going to be really simple. All you have to do is click on this plus sign, go into connectors as we did last time. And here you can see manage connectors. Go here. As you can already see, I have Slate added. Adding a new connector is really easy. You just click here and then you add your connector, you authenticate it, and then you can use it. So now we're going to go back to the chat and start building using Slate. All right, so we're here, and now what we're going to do is use the second prompt from this Google Doc. So this is where we're going to use Slate to build the workflow that I just showed you, which is currently running in the background. So we're just going to copy this right now, go back to our Claude chat. Now my Slate MCP is already connected, it's working, and the workflow is going to be built in a matter of minutes using this prompt. So the prompt says, build me a Slate workflow that takes a seed keyword in a list of competitors as input, searches Google for Reddit threads, mentioning each competitor using the site reddit.com operator, scrapes those Reddit threads, including comments, uses an LLM to extract commercial SEO keywords from the discussions, enriches every keyword with SEMrush data, volume data, difficulty data, and exports the final list to a Google Sheet. The output should tell me which keyword came from which competitor, so I can see the patterns across the competitive set. Use my connected Google Sheets account for the export and my existing Slate output spreadsheet. So this is it. We're gonna give it to Claude now and have it build our workflow inside Slate. So let's see how it goes. I'm not gonna actually show you it building stuff like for the entire thing. I actually have a separate video which I'm gonna attach here so you can go through it. This is where I have broken down this entire process of using Slate and the ecosystem of using SEO automation tools. But essentially, as you can see, it's reading Slate's skill. Then it's going to look at some of its documentation and then finally start by setting up a workspace. Now it's saying there's a native Reddit block. So it's, getting block schema, all of that stuff. It has already started making moves. So it's inside our workspace right now. It has the access. And once Claude stops working, once this is successful, if you go back to the Slate account, you're going to see a new workflow created with a name, right? So it's doing all of this thing, list connections, list Google Sheets, workflows, all of that stuff. As you can see, this is literally the logo of Slate and it's building in real time. Now, once this is done, as I mentioned, you'll have a fully functional workflow. You might still have to make some tweaks here or there, but it's going to essentially land you with the same exact thing that I already have, which is amazing. Isn't it crazy that you can actually see it creating the workflow right here in front of us? Anyways, we're going to stop this right now. Because we don't want Claude to do the same exact thing for us again. And we come back here. Oh, looks like our test run is also complete. So it's saying, hey, your data is added. About 49 goes to the same spreadsheet that you wanted. Now the spreadsheet is a unique Google Sheet ID, which I'm just going to open up to show you what the format looks like. All right, so this is what the output looks like. We have the keywords, the competitor for which the keywords were extracted, based on the Reddit analysis, going through the comments and the threads content, and then there's search volume and keyword difficulty score. In the Slate workflow, just to give you an example, I was keeping it limited on purpose. I didn't add additional fields here, for example, to also mention the Reddit thread exactly with its URL, but we can get to the same exact output like we did in the tier 1 example. So let's call it not Slate output, but rather tier 2 and then maybe Slate output. But it's essentially the same thing that we can achieve using a workflow automation tool. But the good thing about using a platform like Slate is that then you can ramp it up, right? So once you have done this, and again, there's an entire video on this that you can watch. But there's this, sheet thing, which is basically, table where you can run the same exact workflow in bulk. So if I come here, I can create new. And if I then do this with a black sheet, it's going to give me a bunch of different rows where I can, start using the workflows in bulk for a variety of different opportunities. So once you're here, you can click on add, pick workflow, and then you can import any workflow that you were working on, the Reddit one, anything else. Once you've done that, you can add all of the opportunities. So again, you would need a variety of different columns here because we were using more than one input, a number of different competitors, the topic, for example, or anything else based on how you're constructing the workflow. And then you just run all of the rows in a single go, right? You can run everything in bulk and have everything, noted down in a single spreadsheet, etc. Which means, again, you can do a juggernaut keyword research, right? You can find a universe of opportunities by just doing this using a platform like this. All right, so before we move on to the tier 3, the most advanced level, just a quick recap. Essentially what we're doing in the case of Slate workflow is giving it an input, website, 3 competitors, sheet ID, and then it's one loop, which is for each of the competitor doing a Google search using reddit.com plus competitor as a search operator. Then it's extracting the top 3 Reddit URLs. Then there's another loop nested inside it, which is doing more deeper analysis for the Reddit threads, parsing the content, going through all of the keywords that it generates, looking at the content or the comments inside the thread. And then finally, what it's doing is flattening all of those keywords up. And finally, the last loop is giving us all of the SEO data, formatting the data, and then finally putting it into a spreadsheet. So again, it becomes more scalable with this approach, which is a good thing. But then using Claude Code in the 3rd tier, we're gonna really touch the most advanced level and make this entire process agentic. Don't overwhelm yourself looking at this diagram. It might look like crazy, but we're gonna build the exact solution in real time using Claude Code inside VS Code, Visual Studio Code. So let's get into it. All right, so we're inside VS Code, which is this platform used by developers. If you're on Mac, of course, you can also use Terminal, which is a very ugly way of using Claude Code, but still some people do it. I like to either use the desktop app, but then this one right here gives you some ability to just manage files better and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is build the solution right in front of you in real time. We already have the prompt and a general idea of what we want to build. We have a couple of APIs that we're going to use. So inside VS Code, we're going to start a new file. And as you can see, the Claude logo here, it's already installed inside this platform. And it's going to help us build this just using vibe coding. So let's open something. I'm going to click on Claude Code. This is where I usually save all of my projects. And then we're going to do new folder, Reddit, research, keyword research agent. So we create it, and then we're going to open it up. So it gives you this preview where our folder shows up, and then we can start creating files. So I'm going to create the first one, which is going to be the .env file. This is where we typically save everything that we want to keep confidential, meaning API keys or maybe any other kind of credentials that you want to save that you don't want the system or the agent AI, right, to access, because again, just for safety purposes. Now, to be honest, to be transparent, I actually trust Claude with these kind of things. I don't really worry about this, but my elder brother happens to be a software engineer, and he just suggests me to go with this approach. Anyways, I also, you will see in a moment, usually just give Claude complete permission, like bypass permissions to build things, which again, I don't necessarily mind. Okay, so what we have to do now is open up a new file where we're going to start building. So we're going to call it, let's say, Reddit keyword research agent. And then we're going to click on Claude and have it build stuff for us live. So now we have the prompt that we're going to pull from, which is here, prompt number 3. As you can see, this is more detailed than the other ones. So we have build me an agentic Reddit keyword research tool in Python. As you can see, we're specifying the technology, but the most important part is all of the APIs that we're going to use. So there are 4 different APIs: Apify, which we're going to use to scrape Reddit's content. Then we have data for SEO, which is for scraping Google search results. Then we have Ahrefs API, and lastly Anthropic's API for being the agentic brain. So let's add all of these API keys in the env file so you can see what's being actioned on. All right, so we have all of the APIs here: API, data for SEO, credentials, which basically come in the form of a login and password, Ahrefs API key, and then Anthropic's API to use as an LLM. So now what I'm going to do is add all of these API keys. You're not going to be able to see my screen because, of course, I want to keep the keys confidential. But then we're going to start building with the prompt that we had. So let's do that in a second. All right, so I've added the keys, the credentials for all 4 of those APIs: data for SEO, Anthropic, API, and Ahrefs. Now what we're going to do is just go back and pick the prompt that we had and have it build our solution. So as you can see, this one is more detailed. There are specific instructions that I wanted to throw into it. I didn't want to keep it linear, so it has some instructions that will make the process more agentic. So we're going to throw them here. As you can see, the folder that it has picked is Reddit keyword research agent, which is the right one. Then, by the way, we also have this different set of modes that you can use. Typically, when I am still just figuring out what I want to build, different kind of features that I want to have, I suggest using plan mode, where it will build the plan and talk to you before building, and that's where you can add a lot of clarity. In this case, I think we already know what we want to do, but if you're still just figuring things out, start with the plan mode, and then once you have everything that you need, then ask it to start building for us. Now, exactly as I mentioned, I trust Claude typically, at least for myself, so I'm going to go with bypass permission, and it's going to do everything for us using this prompt. Now, I'm going to just send this and see how it goes. And by the way, while this is running and it's building the solution for us, I want you to know that when you're using Claude Code, you can actually rely more on it than what you've seen me do right now. Meaning, you've in fact seen me creating a couple of different files manually, like env and Reddit. It totally depends on how safe you feel about the env stuff and other kind of things. Just a couple of developer best practices that are being followed. But if you want, you can just ask Claude to create a bunch of folders for you. Give it a prompt, literally just come here, talk to it and say, hey, create a folder, add all of these API keys in my env, and then do this, do that, and it will do the things for you. So you don't have to go ahead and even do some of these manual steps that I just took. You can just start talking to it and start building. Right, so really quick, as you can see, I've just interrupted the session. I just felt like Claude was running in some sort of a unfinished loop over and over again, where it was just thinking and thinking and thinking. So looks like maybe it could use some help from us. So what I'm going to do is say, I want you to make an actionable plan for this prompt first, and once you know everything, only then execute. It's just going to help it, do better, because if it can think through every single step first before executing, it's going to save a lot of usage, of course, and at the same time make the process really, really easy. So as you can see, I'm shifting to the plan mode and then hitting it to work. All right, so we can see something is happening now. All right, so I've interrupted it again. Looks like the original prompt that we gave to Claude Code here was not clear enough, and it doesn't really make it build with some concrete steps. So I've just gone back, debug the problem, and then made some significant edits to make it more concrete and specific, so it knows exactly what to build and where. So just to give you a quick idea, this is what the previous prompt looked like. It was pretty detailed already, but now we're gonna paste the new one here, which is, as you can see, even more detailed and more specific. We're exactly saying, what to use, what to build, what to run, specific, scripts, etc. that we need to build. And by the way, again, you don't need to be very technical to build this. You can just talk to Claude. That's exactly what I've done here to restructure the prompt. And you can, again, just do this inside Claude Code turn on the plan mode and start talking with it. I just wanted to show you really quick, so that's why I'm taking a shortcut here. All right, so we're gonna start a new instance just to keep things clean. And again, pick bypass permissions, and let's see how it goes this time. Oops, looks like it's working. So Claude is doing its magic, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what we get. By the way, as you can see, the files are being created in real time in front of us. So I only created the first file, which was .env, and then we had Reddit keyword research agent one, the main file, but everything else is being done on its own, which is awesome. All right, so it looks like it completed something and it wants us to confirm a couple of things. So the API actor is this, confirm that it's accessible on your API account. Ahrefs endpoint uses Keyword Explorer. So confirm that your plan includes this. So it's all just basic. I'm just gonna say something like confirmed for all three. Go ahead and build completely on your own without my input confirmation. Let's see. And by the way, when I said it should not take any input or confirmation from me, the reason is usually when you just give Claude a direction, it can do all of its study on its own, anything that it requires. For example, if it's, API documentation that it doesn't really understand and it needs to confirm a couple of things, it can find all of that data on the web. And of course, time to time, you can just guide it a little bit. You can just say, hey, in this case, for example, if I didn't know about this endpoint that it was asking for Ahrefs API, I would just go to the Ahrefs website, copy the API docs, and then give it to it and say, just read through everything and answer all of your questions on your own. And it will be able to do it, which is amazing, which really makes it a superpower to use a technology like this. Right, so Claude says everything is validated, now running the full pipeline. Now it's testing the entire thing end to end to see if it's working properly, everything goes right according to the plan. All right, so it took longer than I expected, but finally we have the output where it went ahead and looked at 19 different Reddit threads, 17 threads kept after Claude relevance filtering, so a few were just, skipped, 91 unique keywords extracted, and the output is written finally, right? So the 5 top opportunities that it picked based on its own analysis are a few here: influencer marketing tools, affluence pricing, all of that stuff. Now, we have the output right here in front of us, but the good thing is, since we're building this inside Claude Code, you can do a ton of things, and this is what actually makes this useful. Using Claude Code, you have your customization abilities through the roof. Right? So for example, right here, I can turn this into a full-fledged tool that I can run whenever I want. I can ask it to put a UI on it, and it will be just one prompt away where it will have a unique, very cool looking interface, but I can have it build a field for putting your website URL, the competitors, anything else you want, and you can in fact deploy it as a tool, give access to your team, and have them use this as well, right? Or you can throw in a couple of skills from maybe a GitHub repo and have it build these things for you. So for example, instead of just saying, here's a keyword opportunity for you, it can go ahead and create a landing page design, a wireframe, a mockup, maybe a content piece, anything that you want, and you can build it end to end. There's absolutely no limit. Now, of course, we can also have it paste all of the opportunities into a spreadsheet like we did for tier 1 and tier 2. I'm not going to do that right now, but the main benefit of building something like this inside Claude Code, as opposed to the other two options, is that you can create it agentic in nature very easily. I'm not saying that it's not possible with a platform like Slate or maybe even inside Claude's own web app, but it's a combination of doing it at scale, doing it agentically, where the agent, where the LLM is making decisions for you, right? So for example, what we're saying is, hey, you have access to a bunch of different APIs. We want you to decide when to call what platform, what API, what data to pull, and based on that, make the decisions for us, give us the final outcome that we need. So it's finally deciding, hey, these are the 3 to 4 different arms of platforms that I have access to right now. Who do I need to call and when? what data do I need to pull in order to get this final outcome? All we're saying is this is what we need in the form of the outcome. Do the processing in the mental, cognitive brain function on your own. Now, my normal natural steps would be at this point to just actually build a UI, as I mentioned, and deploy it so that someone can actually run this and use it. So as you can see, I just asked you to build a nice looking UI for this tool and give me a local host version that I can run on my computer. So it just started working. I just interrupted for a while and then it just went on again. And then finally here with all the work, we have this local host URL where we can see the tool live in action. And if I open this up now, we're going to be taken to this screen where it looks like we have a decent UI to work with, and it's all of the same parameters that we wanted. So we have a seed keyword, the list of competitors, and we're also asking it to have some context about the company so it can make decisions wisely. So if I was to add all of this data here, influencer marketing, and add grin, affluence, and hype auditor, then finally also add a sentence describing Modash, and I can click on run research. So as you can see, we have the pipeline output right in front of us. We can see every single step that it's making. So it started by searching the SERPs for influencer marketing site reddit.com as a search operator. So it's using data for SEO API, and it's finding a couple of Reddit threads. Then it's doing the same thing for affluence, grin, hype auditor, and collecting all of those Reddit threads. Then moving on to the next stage, which is scraping. This is where it's using Apify's Reddit actor to scrape all of the content of those Reddit threads so it can understand what kind of conversations are happening, what kind of dialogues are being exchanged between potential customers. Now, the main value of building something like this inside Claude Code is, number one, the scaling abilities. Of course, you can do it for so many opportunities at once, similar to how we did it inside Slate. But there are additional opportunities that only Claude Code can open up for you. Number one is, of course, customization, which is you can add as many filters, parameters you want, anything that you really want to add inside this tool, the UI, and the backend engine with just a single prompt. It will never be easier than this. Because, of course, even if you're using a platform like Slate or any other marketing automation tool, you're still playing with a couple of nodes. You still have to configure a bunch of things, even if you use their MCP function and create something with a prompt at the start. There are still manual elements to it, right? Using Claude Code, it's just completely prompt driven. It's a totally different experience. And your capabilities are literally pretty close to a developer, right? So that's one. Secondly, the main value in building something like this is you can make this agentic very easily. Now, of course, platforms like N8N, Make.com also have these capabilities where you can make any solution more agentic, where the solution is basically running on its own and making decisions on its own. But again, using Claude Code, it just makes it super, super easy to turn things agentic, where you're saying, hey, you are an AI brain, and I'm gonna give you a bunch of APIs, but I want you to make decisions on your own. We can still define a logic that it should play within, but it's going to decide when to call Ahrefs for specific data, when to run SERP analysis, when not to run SERP analysis, what kind of Reddit threads to pull from, what kind of Reddit threads to avoid. So if I were to take you back while this agent runs and it generates output for us to the main diagram for the tier 3, essentially what we're saying is here are a couple of inputs. So seed keywords, relevance threshold, volume or keyword difficulty filters. And these are not necessarily data points that we're providing, but rather a logic that we're defining, right? So we're saying you have to play within this relevance threshold for any Reddit thread that you pick. You have to apply this volume or keyword difficulty filter. So although the platform is going to run agentically and make its own decisions, we're still basically creating some guardrails and saying, this is your playground, only play within. Then we have, of course, the API keys, where we had like 4 different APIs. So the way it works is we have data for SEO, where it's going to run SERP analysis for a specific number of keywords, extract the Reddit thread URLs if they're extracted based on the relevance score, right? Of course, in this case, for example, we're defining it as If it's greater than 0.5, then proceed. If not, then drop it. If those Reddit threads are picked up, then Ahrefs API drives a couple of organic keywords per URL. And then Apify, of course, is also going to scrape all of the content of those Reddit threads, along with comments as well. And finally, we have Claude Code API, which is basically the enrichment layer, which is qualifying opportunities, adding score for relevance, extracting pain points, and taking it one step further. So we're not just looking at the keywords that those Reddit threads are ranking for, but rather also going through the actual comments and dialogue on those threads using Apify, and then finally using Claude Code to turn all of those insights into actual pain points, and then run the keywords layer again. So finally, of course, we get the output in the form of a Google Sheet or anything that you want, right? In the UI that we now just developed, we might not turn to a Google Sheet. We might just use all the data right there. So finally, of course, in the output, we get the keywords with volume, keyword difficulty data, positions, relevance score, a couple of pain points, content angles, all of that stuff. Now, what makes this agentic, of course, as I mentioned, is the agent is deciding whether to call Ahrefs based on relevance score or not, right? It's running end-to-end for hundreds of keywords. It's also classifying content from different signals. So what kind of content you should create? Is it a landing page or something else? And these are not hard-coded rules. This is stuff that agent is literally thinking on its own based on the logic that we've provided. All right, so coming back to the Reddit keyword research tool that we built, what this agent is now doing is having scraped all of the content, which by the way took a lot of time because it's making a list of Reddit threads at the start and then scraping the content for all of them one by one. Moving forward, it's analyzing every single thing that it found. So as you can see, it's scoring them based on relevance, and it's deciding what threads to keep, which ones to drop. So it's basically looking at each of them, giving it a score, finding a bunch of keywords that it's ranking for using the Ahrefs API, and then deciding which ones to keep, which ones to drop. And then, of course, in the next step, we're going to enrich them with more volume data. Now, while this runs again, I'm going to give you a quick reminder. This document where I have all these 3 prompts, the updated one for Claude Code as well, I'm going to drop it in the description in the form of a form that you can fill. So if you fill it with your email, you're going to be able to access this Google Doc, and you can start building on your own. Let it be, using Claude Code or this Slate platform for building workflows. Or of course, if you're just using Claude web app, you can just use this prompt and start building already. As long as you have access to the same MCP connectors, APIs, etc., you can build the same exact thing that I just did, completely copied 100%. So coming back here, we can see that the analyze function has been completed, and we're at the last stage of enrichment where it's adding data from Ahrefs for all of the opportunities found and qualified. All right, so the enrichment is finally done and the output is here. We can see it extracted a total of 91 keywords with the Ahrefs data and also gave them a score based on prioritization. So we have the keywords here, the volume here in the second column, keyword difficulty, a score based on its determined prioritization, and lastly, format, the page format that it thinks we need to create in order to win. Then it also is giving us the pain point that it extracted, again, which is something that was super easy using Claude Code, but would have taken more effort and time if I was building inside a marketing automation tool, or maybe directly asked Claude to do it for me. So finally, it's giving me the source, which is basically the theme that it picked from the Reddit thread. And if you can see, it's a pretty big list of keywords that I can now work with. I can export it. I can put it into a Google Sheet, assign it to a team. I can also filter by format, by sources, by keywords. Plus, I can just deploy this as a tool and share access with my team and have everyone start using it. So that's it. We've looked at all 3 of the tiers of running this process. Number 1 was, of course, the web app, then Slate workflow, and then lastly, Claude Code, which was the most advanced.